Welcome to my final presentation about my final iteration. So, a quick review for your benefit. I have been working on making a website and some learning tools for first year writing students about information literacy. And so far, I've made the website. And it's functional, and I made one video tutorial using Powtoon. I wasn't very happy with it. I, however, have learned a great deal by just using the software. And one of the reasons is that I did use it is because a lot of other librarians are using that software, and so I felt like starting where other people were would be helpful to kind of get the lay of the land and allow me to see where I can really make contributions, as opposed to just kind of like uncritically do stuff. So it was helpful to start there. It's obviously not where I want to end up. So in this last iteration, I decided to refocus on my research questions and really my methods and those types of things as I created my final prototypes. And what you're going to see are definitely prototypes. So, oh man. So where I am now, and I'll show you what I've done, is I've been focusing on learning outcomes and user needs. And in a way that I feel like I had been doing that from the beginning, but I was still really trying to figure out how I wanted to disseminate the information and how I wanted to package it. So I'm asking myself, what do I want students to be able to do after having gone through these tutorials? And that then changes the types of interactions or technologies that I'll use to make those tutorials. I've incorporated some user testing, and I've thought about assessment. And I've been kind of considering how technology enhances or detracts from the learning experience, and if I really need it, and in what ways in a perfect world I would teach these things. But because it's not a perfect world, I've had to learn how to balance my technical skills or knowledge, or at least what I think I can do eventually, right, with my pedagogical skills and knowledge. So I know I would like to be able to do this one thing or have this one interaction. My technical skills might not match that, so I have to ask myself, what's the next best thing? And as such, I've been respecting the prototyping process as something that truly is iterative, both in the outputs that I've been doing. And like I said, these are prototypes. They are far from finished. I'm like restarting them, I think, would be actually the best thing at this point. But I've learned a lot in the process of making something that I'm not like super happy with, which is funny. Okay, so let me show you what I've got. You can find them here under information framing. So you can click here to access the tutorial for that, and the complexities of authority, and that's where this one is. So those are the two new tutorials I've made. For the complexities of authority, I used Twine. Thank you, Addison. Loved it. I loved using Twine. This is an interactive or kind of like choose your own adventure, nonlinear storytelling, open access, so free, open source. Thing that you can use, and I felt like it was really user friendly, and I really appreciated that. I felt like there just wasn't like a horrible learning curve, and I got lost in it, and I was enjoying making the content. So you can go through if you'd like to see what I've done. There are several that I haven't built out yet, and they'll say it, but I like that you can embed things like photos. I can suggest paths that my students take through. I could embed videos if I wanted to do that as well. So it's like not like just, it doesn't just have to be text. There's a lot that you can do here. As you can see, there's some that I'm building out still. Super fun. I did ask students that I have worked with before what they thought about it. And they said it was really fun to be able to kind of choose their way through it, and they liked how the content was delivered, but they got lost. And that was kind of a scary thing, like a vulnerability thing probably. And I said, well, what if I gave you like a map and you could kind of see like where you were in the scaffolding, and they liked that idea. So I thought that that was really valuable, and probably not something that I would have thought of without having done that user testing. And in terms of assessment, this is something I would have to look back at my learning outcomes and devise a way of testing students to see if they could do or think the way that I'm hoping they would after having used this. So that's my first tutorial. The second one, which is about information framing, you can find here. You can find on the website, but this is what Captivate looks like. This is a proprietary Adobe software, which is like between $200 and $500 a year, I think, for a license. Not cheap. I'm using a trial, which means that this thing that I've made will, in fact, disappear in like 15 days. Enjoy. In the meantime, but I think that depending on like your funding and stuff like that, and this actually is probably worth working with. In terms of interactions, and like I'm very aware of how ugly this is. In fact, I'm gonna actually go here so you can kind of see what it looks like online. So I've got a video with some narratives over there, and that's like the introduction, and then you can embed interactions over videos. You can have input boxes. Again, I know this is kind of ugly. And then put all sorts of content, and what's nice about it is that it automatically resizes, for you, so you don't have to like do that coding. It's great. So people could be using this on a device. I know this for some reason looks weird. It looks fine when I haven't figured out, but this took me forever, so I know. Anyway, try again. Anyway, the learning curve was real steep here for me. I have used Adobe products. I'm aware of how Adobe works, but I felt like this was a very unique product. So worth using, something I would like to continue using if I can somehow get money for it. But yeah, this is a really, really great technology. I asked my students what they thought, and I thought that this was hilarious because I was like, this is great. I have all these interactions. I can do quizzes, and they're like, we don't like the quizzes, and stuff like that. And so that brings me to some of my reflections here. Let me talk about my triumphs and failures really quick. So I have a functioning website. I've got some long-term research questions I'm excited about. I have some technologies I want to keep working towards, 2 of them with potential, even if I completely redo them. I don't love how they are now. So I don't know that it's a failure. It's just an observation. I do wish I had started on tutorial creation earlier because I feel like my outputs aren't very polished. But at the same time, I know I've done a great deal of work. So it is what it is. It's always funny to every time, there's going to be glitches with absolutely everything. In fact, I spent all day yesterday trying to upload the Captivate thing to my website, hours. And so, the funniest things are roadblocks. All right. So in the last few minutes, let me just kind of reflect on what I've learned and that feedback from those students. So, sometimes you need to build something before you know what you're building, and it seems like you should just know what you're building before you build it. But it's you think you're going to build a swing set, and it has certain functionalities and is for certain people, and you end up building treehouse, and the treehouse is for similar users but has different functionalities because the project does morph. And that's been an interesting thing to see that change. So here's what I want to talk about for a second. There's a balance between the creator's vision and the end user's needs or feedback. I have a vision. I think the Captivate stuff is built on good pedagogical tools or thoughts. But the students were oh, we don't like that. But I know for a fact that research shows that having, kind of quick thoughtful ways that students can quickly quiz themselves on information is helpful. And so I really have to balance what I know is my area of expertise with this feedback that I'm getting and decide what I do and don't want to keep. And that's been kind of an interesting balance. I've learned that doing something wrong is sometimes the right thing to do. And what I mean by that is you're not always messing up if you have to start again because you've learned something in the process. So here's my final question for you. What do you do when your vision may be different than the feedback you get from your mentors, or in my case, the end users? I'm just wondering how you balance those. Your vision, like staying open to feedback and like being willing to be flexible and change your project as needed, but also like recognizing what you bring to the table. Okay, thank you for listening to my last presentation.